We recently talked about the military recruiter Vtuber and the ethical problems this raises. To follow up, we need to talk about something just as important. Something you don't and won't see and hear from military recruiters or military recruiter Vtubers. We're going to talk about why not to join the Navy, or any branch. Beyond the things we've already touched on, there's so much more that you need to understand before you even begin to think about visiting a recruiter, because they're not going to tell you any of what I'm about to. Number 1. Washout, attrition, and the fact that you may never reach the promised payoffs for all the risk, time, energy, autonomy, and rights you're signing away. A major omission in enlistment positive messaging is how many people who sign up don't actually reach the stage where those advertised benefits meaningfully materialize. People can spend months in the delayed entry program, go to training, then get separated before they ever get the vision of service they were sold. The Army's own writing on initial entry training noted about a 15% attrition rate, very likely higher in a more objective assessment. At about 20%, that means 1 in 5 people who get sold the idea they're going to get good pay, healthcare, college funding, and more won't ever get a drop of any of them, and they'll have wasted their time that they could have spent on anything else. And of the other 4 who do make it past this hurdle, key benefits like the GI Bill are not simply automatic for everyone who raises their hand and takes the oath. Eligibility for benefits depends on service length and discharge circumstances. Some of them won't get meaningful long-term benefits either. Number 2. Abuse, assault, domestic violence, alcoholism, and more. These are enormous problems that the DoD tracks at scale. In the most recent year of published data, there were almost 9,000 recorded sexual assaults, with 29,000 service members experiencing unwanted sexual contact. The DoD's own family advocacy data also shows that over 15,000 domestic abuse reports existed. Further, RAND's health-related behavior survey found that almost 34% of service members reported binge drinking within the last month, and 10% reported heavy drinking. People act like military culture is one of restraint, discipline, and high standards, but it's a two-faced situation. These issues are so severe that units have to have weekly safety briefings to remind people of the big 3. Please don't rape anyone, please don't drive drunk, and please don't get in a fight. Number 3. Low early pay, financial naivete, and predation. In 2026, official enlisted base pay for an E1 private recruit is only $2,200 a month. And that only rises to $2,800 a month when they reach E3 private first class. That would only be about $13 to $15 an hour if you worked a normal 40-hour work week, but military life isn't a 40-hour work week. You're up at 5 a.m. and you're putting in at least 10 hours plus in your workday. You're lucky if what you're actually pulling down is $12 an hour, before taxes. That's not the kind of money civilians imagine when they hear enlistment pitched as a career path. They'll be told by recruiters that the benefits make it up much more, but that's only if you get them. And even then, it's not bringing up your pay nearly as much as people believe. On top of that, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has repeatedly warned that service members face elevated financial risks and are common targets for predatory practices, especially in lending. The bottom line, the sales pitch says paychecks and benefits. The reality is that for many junior enlisted, it's low pay, financial inexperience, and a target on their back for lenders and other financial predators. Number 4. Many people don't get the job they want. While job choice is a part of the process for enlisting in the branches, enlistees can try for a specific MOS or rating, but that's entirely dependent on qualifications and openings. They're constrained by test scores, medical requirements, security requirements, contract type and length, and slot availability. Unless you get it in writing before you sign on the dotted line, what you'll do in the military will be what the military wants you to do, not what you want to do. This leads us to number 5. The belief that your military job and experience will necessarily translate to a civilian career. The civilian transfer story is uneven and often oversold. The GAO reports that about 200,000 service members leave active duty each year, and many have difficulty finding civilian jobs, sometimes needing costly retraining or credentials. RAND likewise found that many military occupations don't map as neatly onto civilian work as implied. Further, military-specific jobs like infantry and riflemen have few quality civilian matches. Some military jobs may translate well, others do not. Recruiters and enlistment advocates present transferability as if it were the default, when often it's not. Within the military, though, is number 6. Promotions and advancement are not a straight line and may never meaningfully materialize for you. Early junior promotions can come quickly enough, but NCO advancement is a challenge. Army promotion regulations tie advancement to promotion points, boards, military education, and selection processes. The idea that you join and will advance yourself through time and service is misleading, leaving many stuck in low ranks, with the associated low pay, to say nothing of how junior enlistees are treated. Back to just even getting in is number 7. The strain, deprivation, and duress. Army-associated materials note that service members report sleep deficiency at twice the civilian rate. If you're not prepared for 6 hours of sleep to be your everyday experience, you're out of luck. Over 75% of service members report less than 7. Army medical discussion ties this poor sleep to anxiety, depression, PTSD, chronic pain, alcohol abuse, and suicide risk. A 2025 Army report noted that Army doctrine in operations can permit as little as 4 hours of sleep per day. Even if you're lucky and your own unit graciously gives you 6, those hours do not have to be consecutive. And guess what? You're still expected to learn and perform because, understandably, you'll need to be able to perform under extreme duress in an emergency. Which is why you also need to be prepared to be screamed at, harassed, and degraded throughout. Many viewers who see enlistment positive messaging simply don't fully grasp the effect this has. They may think they can handle it, but when it actually happens and you experience it as your daily reality for months, it's no surprise that many can't manage. And there's nowhere to go if you can't. Your rights are a thing you've already signed away, and not just for the length of a summer camp. Number 8. Injury risk in training. An example, a 2025 Health.mil surveillance update recorded almost 500 cases of rhabdomyolysis, with recruits showing 13 times higher rates than other members, with 40% of those cases requiring hospitalization. My personal experience here is witnessing a fit former high school cross-country runner collapse after a ruck march and waking up with his legs swollen like balloons, being rushed to the hospital and never being the same. People imagine training injuries are something that almost happens exclusively to people who are unfit. But even being highly fit in one domain doesn't mean you're prepared. Even people who think they're well prepared can break down, or just suffer accidents and end up like any other person who washes out. NIH studies show injury rates of about 25% in trainees. Number 9. Misconception that the military takes care of the details for you. Many impressionable targets of recruitment messaging are people who haven't had the experience of taking care of all the little things that modern adulthood requires. The military sells them the idea that things like housing, finances, taxes, clothing, food, and more are details that they don't have to worry about. The military is thus positioned as a mother that many young men are used to having take care of things for them. But the reality is that while early on your life is so extremely regimented that you don't have time for any of that, it becomes increasingly complicated when you get along enough that you want to live outside the barracks. And you will want to live outside the barracks. That is, of course, if you're even lucky enough to be posted at a base and not sent into more dangerous elements of service. Number 10. You'll go where you're told, when you're told. Many recruits are sold on the idea that they'll either get stationed at some well-appointed in-country base or get to live in one of the cool bases in Japan or Germany or Hawaii, for example. Some people get that opportunity, but that's not the reality for most. Recruits are often sold an aspirational image of travel and exotic assignments, but actual stationing is highly constrained by the needs of the military. Even when someone does get an overseas or desirable posting, that doesn't guarantee a good quality of life or day-to-day quality of conditions. So when the Navy, for example, tells you slogans like "See the world," or a recruiter tells you about cool postings in Europe and Asia, that's only a best-case scenario. You'll go where you're told. Maybe more importantly is that the bases you do get sent to may be substandard. The GAO found in 2023 that some barracks were so substandard that they posed serious potential health and safety risks, including black mold and mildew, sewage overflow, broken equipment, and inoperable systems. The report also found weaknesses in how the DoD assesses and manages barracks conditions. I can personally attest that when I was stationed in Texas, several barracks had to be simply torn down completely after years of neglect left them with dangerous black mold. Further, several bases have bad reputations for gang violence, including military gangs. Some bases are also isolated, have terrible weather, or just nothing to do. Far from the image of military culture and life that recruiters sell. Number 11. The idea that you'll be respected and looked at highly after your service. While in the US there's a wide perception of respecting the troops, that broad sentiment is paper thin. Further, that thin veneer of respect is waning, as our military is engaged in deeply unpopular operations that are seen by many as unjustified. And if you're of enlistment age, your generation, and the generation coming into adulthood now, simply no longer cares. There's a host of reasons for that. If you think that enlistment is a path to prestige and being seen as disciplined, competent, and that you'll earn the respect of your peers, you may need to take a minute and read the room. More to the point, public sentiment can radically turn based on events totally outside your control. Vietnam was within living memory. And last, number 12. The long-standing problem of discrimination that's only getting worse. The military's own internal reviews find racial disparities in discipline and justice, and those disparities matter all the more in a closed hierarchy with rigid command decisions that can shape a person's livelihood and future. The military may also advertise meritocracy, but women still face measurable disadvantages and harms inside the services. The GAO found that women were 28% more likely than men to leave the service, and female enlisted promotion rates were lower. The literature reviewed identified themes including sexual assault and dependent care pressures. Separately, the DoD's gender relations data found that over 1 in 10 women experienced sex discrimination in the last year. The DoD's own sexual harassment appendix reported that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 20 men experienced sexual harassment behaviors in the last year. Relatedly, the military has long treated racial and ethnic groups as prime recruiting targets, and explicitly studied how to increase enlistment among Black and Hispanic youth. This is not speculation, it's a fact. RAND, in research sponsored by the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense, explicitly focused on finding the most effective and efficient ways to target Black and Hispanic youth. The ethical problem isn't the outreach itself, it's marketing military service as a solution to unequal civilian opportunity for communities already facing structural disadvantage, while downplaying the fact that the institution itself contains disparities in punishment, harassment, advancement, and treatment. So the military frames itself as a melting pot where skin color, gender, and background don't matter and only ability does, but that's far from the reality. So what do we conclude? Beyond just that 1 in 4 people who enlist never make it through their full initial contract? That 1 in 5 don't even make it through their initial training? That up to half of veterans would discourage a high school senior from enlisting when they turned 18? Well, when someone tells you that they're not a recruiter, but is broadcasting messages of the benefits of enlisting without giving equal attention and intensity to the drawbacks, they're only not a recruiter on a technicality. If a person behaves exactly as a recruiter would, saying what they would say, doing what they would do, but simply doesn't do the paperwork part, they can only deny being an official recruiter. They're still recruiting by definition. That is, quote, someone who engages in finding, attracting, or enlisting new members. Much more importantly, though, is that anyone who is telling you the benefits without also telling you all the things I have isn't just talking up the positives. They're deceiving you, lying by omission, and acting, whether officially or not, as marketing. Propaganda isn't just something made by institutions and governments. Individuals can, and often do, knowingly or not, engage in it as well. And you are not immune. If a doctor told you the upsides of a procedure, but didn't give you a thorough, explicit description of the drawbacks and what could go wrong, you wouldn't trust that doctor to influence you about such an important decision. If a VTuber tells you the upsides of enlistment, but doesn't give you the explicit descriptions of the drawbacks and what can go wrong, you can't trust that VTuber to influence people about such an important decision. It is ethically indefensible, and it's important that we say so.